Welcome everyone, thanks for being here. This session of Yoga for Rowers, we will be working on the shoulders and a little bit more specifically on some of the rotator cuff muscles, but also some of the other muscles around the shoulders that work on stability and basically that you need them strong, engaged, and not overpowered by opposing muscle groups, usually the pec muscles or neck muscles that kind of pull you into a forward shoulder positioning. So we'll be working on both, kind of releasing those forward shoulder positional muscles and also engaging some of the muscles that stabilize the shoulders, including the rotator cuff muscles. We will be using yoga blocks today, and either we'll be doing a chest stretch where you have a roll underneath your spine, and it could be a blanket roll, it could be a foam roller. Yeah, and you might also want the blanket for padding your knees. So we are going to start on our backs. So getting yourself situated there. And legs could be bent or straight. Knock-kneed or even a butterfly position. We'll be here for a couple of minutes. So if you want to use any props to be in this position, feel free. And I'm going to have you start with both hands on your torso. So palms on belly, lower chest. Take a moment here to bring your attention to your breath. Feeling the belly, chest expand as you breathe in, taking in the air, and soften, relax as you breathe out. Breathing through the nose, start to lengthen the breath, slow it down. Have you here in this arm position. We are in internal rotation at the shoulders, meaning the arm bones are rotated inward towards the torso, which is a position we're in a lot when we're on the computer, driving in the car, sometimes even sleeping, whether you're on your back or on your side. Those long arm bones, upper arm bones rotated inward. So a lot of the things that we do, and even long periods of time, we're in this rotated inward position of the shoulders, forward shoulder positioning. So we'll do some things to start to reverse that, or do the opposite of, into external rotation. I want you to feel this sort of relaxed position here, feeling the breathing. And we'll take the next few breaths to set an intention for your practice. And perhaps you've come to the class today with your own intention. Feel free to set that here in the front of your mind. And if not, bring this thought to the front of your mind. Open. Openness. And we're going to be feeling that in our bodies, feeling that in our shoulders, the chest, maybe even in through the spine. Keeping this word in the front of your mind, open. So we'll begin to move from here. And I'm going to open my arms. So I'm keeping my elbows on the ground, but bringing my hands up here towards the ceiling. So I'm in this robot arm position, elbows in close by the ribs. And this is a neutral rotation. So hands on belly, internal rotation, forearms, hands moving away from the body is external rotation. And we'll do that in we'll see that in kind of different varieties of positions. Stay in this neutral robot arm position, and we're pressing the elbows, the shoulders into the floor to lift the breastbone. Hips and head stay down, and then we relax it. So we inhale, press the shoulders into the floor, breastbone lifts towards the ceiling. Exhale, relaxing it. And let's do a few more like that. You don't have to push with all your might, so keep it, gentle to moderate amount of pushing or muscle engagement. So you might feel here those muscles between the shoulder blades engaging. They're actually what's helping to lift that breastbone towards the ceiling. And they're very important muscles here that run between the shoulder blades and the spine that work to stabilize and help you elevate and move the arms, the shoulders. We'll relax here on the next one. And I'll have you roll onto your side. And you could use your arm here to support the head or slide a folded blanket or a pillow underneath it. Hips and knees bent. We're stretching this top arm forward and we're pulling this elbow back behind us. So bending that top elbow, pull it behind you and you're gonna rotate the torso. So chest and the gaze come up towards the ceiling, but the lower body's roughly in that same position of the fetal pose. And then we stretch the arm forward again. So in the inhale, we pull the elbow back, chest and gaze towards the ceiling. Exhale, stretching it forward. And you can even roll a little bit forward so you feel the shoulder blade move away from the spine. And then we pull that shoulder blade back again as you bring the elbow with it. We'll do a few more. And if you've got some tension, tightness in the upper back, or maybe it's the shoulder or the chest, you're just moving in whatever range of motion you comfortably have. And then we'll take our time and roll onto the other side to do that same thing. But make sure you support the head with the arm or another prop. Top arm reaching straight out from the shoulder. We inhale, pull that elbow back. Exhale, reach it forward. So we are using some similar muscles here as we pull that elbow back, that shoulder blade moving towards the spine. But now we don't have as much resistance here. We don't have that body weight resisting us. And so we might be feeling that shoulder blade movement, shoulder blade pulling towards the spine as you pull the elbow back, reaching away from it as you reach forward. So it's important to have good mobility of that shoulder blade on the back ribs to have good shoulder mechanics. All right, and then from here, we're going to come on up to a seated position. You could roll over or just kind of sit up from there. I'm gonna stretch my legs out here in front of me and then leaning back on the hands. And whatever hand position feels okay to the wrist or the shoulders, and you could experiment. Fingers forward to the sides, maybe back behind you here. Leaving the hips down. So this is very similar to that robot arm position here. Hips stay down, but we inhale, lift the breastbone, bring the gaze up a little bit. That head might tilt back some. And then we exhale, let the chest cave in and drop the chin. So we open that chest on the inhale, feel those shoulder blades move together and down towards your waist. Exhale, release. So again, opening that chest. This is by way of that strength of the upper back and those shoulder blade muscles. One more here. Opening that chest, broadening through the collarbones, and then relaxing that. Making our way to hands and knees here. You might use that blanket to pad your knees. Knees under hips, wrists under shoulders, or perhaps you're on loose fist here, taking the weight off the wrist or coming down onto your forearms. We're moving through some cat and cow motions of the spine. So we're rounding through the back, tucking the tailbone, tuck the chin. And then the opposite, we lift the tailbone, belly down, chest forward. Back and forth between those two. Exhale, rounding the back, pushing the floor away. Inhale, hips up, chest forward. So keep going here. If you've been in class with me before, done the videos, done any yoga, really, this cat and cow probably feels pretty familiar to you. So maybe shift your focus to what's happening at the shoulder blades. So as you round the back into cat, those shoulder blades move apart. And if you push into the floor, those shoulder blades move apart even more. And then as you move into that cow, the shoulder blades pull towards each other, right? And both of those movements are important. And for you in the catch position, that ability to reach more forward with your arms is actually helpful in generating more force through the oars. Bring this back into center. So let's focus on that part a little bit here, that being able to push away here with the shoulders and the shoulder blades moving away from the spine. So I'm going to, instead of being on the hands, I want you to come down onto your forearms. And the forearms could be on the ground or on the yoga blocks here. Kind of like the yoga blocks because it makes my shoulders a little more level here with my hips. Now, we are not doing cat and cow here, so there's not the same spinal movement we were doing before, but I want you to do that same shoulder blade movement. So as you exhale, you're pushing the floor away and feel those shoulder blades move away from the spine and even wrap around the side ribs. And then we let the chest pull towards the floor, shoulder blades towards each other. So we exhale, push the floor away, spine is neutral. Inhale, chest towards the floor, shoulder blades towards each other. Let's do a few more here. And I'm already starting to feel these muscles here. So they actually come from the underside of the shoulder blades and wrap around the side ribs. And they're the ones that help you get that longer reach, but they're also super important for stabilizing the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. All right, taking a little break here. Let's come into a child's or a puppy pose. So hips over heels for child's, hips over knees for puppy. Let the head come down to the floor or stacked hands or even a yoga block here. Taking a few breaths. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the belly. So a couple of options, and remember there's always options in this practice. You can always modify, you can change this up and do things that work better for your body or come into a resting position or substitute and do something else. So one option is stay right here resting. Another is to come back into that shoulder blade push-up we just did from that hands and knees or forearms and knees position. Or to make it more challenging and add a little core, do that same shoulder blade push-up from a knee down plank position. So you're going to be on your forearms again here, elbows under the shoulders, but walk, if you want to do the plank, you're walking the knees back. So think your straight line from the knees to the top of the head. So we're not going to let our back sag, nor are we pushing the hips back. That straight line, and here's our shoulder blade push-up again. So you exhale, push the floor away, shoulder blades move apart. Inhale, chest towards the floor, shoulder blades towards each other. Exhale, push away. Inhale, chest goes down, but keep going. But I'm trying to keep my spine really long, so I'm having to work my core to do that, not let my hips sag or push back. And boy, do I feel these muscles here running from underneath my shoulder blades. One more. Whew. All right. You could walk your knees forward. Now you could come into a regular child's or puppy pose, or to take a little bit of a break here. Coming into this puppy pose, hips over knees, you could bring your forearms here on the blocks. Palms come together and then shift back. And the hands could come up over the head. Maybe the forehead comes down to rest. Maybe the hands come back here to the upper back or just stay up. If your shoulders do not like this position, don't force it. Come into a regular child's or puppy pose. Take a few breaths. So here we might be stretching the lats a little bit. And you probably think of lats as more of a back muscle, which they are. But they're also shoulder muscles, and they are internal rotators at the shoulders. So they roll those shoulders inwards. So giving them a little stretch here to help. We'll come up here. It's kind of awkward to come up, so come up however it feels good to you. And moving those blocks out of the way for right now. Hands and knees are on your forearms here, doing a little toe rocking. So you're going to press one heel back to stretch through the calf and shift forward, bending through the toes. And do a few of these, just kind of work out some of the kinks, tightness that you might have in the big toe, the ankle, maybe the calf or sole of foot. We'll lower this knee and do this on the other side. So those shoulder blade muscles we were just working as we push that floor away, they're called serratus muscles because they're actually out where how they attach onto the ribs looks serrated, like a serrated knife sort of. And we use those muscles in down dog. So I'm getting ready to bring you into a down dog here. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a kind of break it down. So if you want to watch what's happening at the shoulders and then join me in down dog, that might be helpful for you, or just listen to the cues. I'm going to turn so you can see me from the head view here. So in down dog, hands are a little forward of shoulders. The fingers are spread out, and then you're lifting the hips up and back. Now, if you really tighten the legs and you kind of shift forward here, bend those knees and push the hips up and back. And I'm pushing the floor away here in this down dog. So that's those same serratus, those shoulder blade muscles I was talking about. But you can also overpower with the neck muscles and hunch up here. So if you bend the elbows out to the sides a little bit and then rotate the elbows to point towards the floor and then straighten the elbows and push the floor away, you're going to get those serratus muscles and the neck will be long. All right, so let's do it all together here. Hands a little forward of shoulders, fingers spread, hips up and back. Maybe a little bend to the knees to lengthen the spine. Elbows come out to the sides, bending a little bit, and then we rotate the elbows to point towards the floor. Straighten the elbows. Feel that strength around the shoulder blades. Shake the head, pedal the feet. All right, looking forward, we're going to step the left foot between the hands. You can help your foot get there. You could lower that right knee, helping it get there. I'm going to use that blanket here to pad my knees. And then back knee lowers. We're lifting ourselves up into this upright position of the lunge. We'll bring the hands behind the head, interlacing fingers. Tailbone towards the earth, top of the head towards the sky. So pushing the elbows back is actually external rotation. So if we gently push those elbows back, we start to work some of the rotator cuff muscles. And then see if these muscles here between the neck kind of hunched up, can you release them but keep the grip here behind your head? And we'll lengthen up through this right side. So on the inhale, reach the right elbow towards the ceiling, and the exhale, bring it into center. And again, inhale, right elbow towards the ceiling, lengthening, exhale, bringing it here to center. Keep going a couple more. Try to keep those elbows kind of out of your peripheral vision and those muscles between neck and shoulders relaxed. All right, we'll release this here. Bring the hands down to the floor around your front foot, and we'll step this back into a plank. You could keep the knees up or lower them and lower all the way down to the ground. Untuck your toes here, this low cobra. Elbows pull toward your back pockets, and that starts to peel the head and chest up off the floor. And you open that chest, broaden through the collarbones, keeping it here if that upper back engagement, shoulder blade engagement feels good, or rise up for a bigger back bend. Don't force it though. We're gonna use the abs, so pull the low belly in, tuck your toes, and reach your hips up and back into that down dog. And notice if you reverted to that kind of hunch through the shoulder position, bend the knees, hips up and back. Elbows a little bit out to the side. Point the elbows towards the floor. Push the floor away, straightening those elbows, neck long. Looking forward, right foot between the hands, helping it get there. We're going to lower that back knee here. Lift the torso. Find that length in the spine. So tailbone towards the earth, top of the head towards the sky. Hands behind the head, interlacing fingers. Elbows back a little bit. Head gently back, but gaze stays forward. Release the tension in those muscles between the neck and shoulders. And we're lengthening up through the left side. Inhale, left elbow towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring it all to center. We'll stay on this side with that. Left elbow reaching up on the inhale, centered on the exhale. We'll let our hands come down to the floor here. And we're stepping the back foot to the front foot. And find yourself in a version of forward fold that works for your body. So it could be the ragdoll fold, knees bent, upper body draped over lower body. Even holding elbows here might feel really good on these muscles we've been working. Or feet wide, butt back, forearms on your thighs. This one's more protective of your spine if you've got some low bone density or herniated disc or really tight hamstrings. Neck long in either of these positions. Maybe you shake that head out a little bit or just gently turn it side to side. A subtle weight shift here with your feet. Bring that weight shift back to center. Look forward, strong legs. Inhale, rise up to stand, reaching up. And exhale, hands to prayer. Let this go. Shake out your arms, roll the shoulders. I'm going to move that blanket out of the way here. I'm going to turn to face the side of my mat just so I have more room to spread my feet out, but you could face forward. It doesn't really matter. We don't need as much of the sticky part of the mat here, but we're stepping our feet out wide, wider than the shoulders. Our toes are turned out here. We're coming in and out of goddess, which is this wide-legged squat. You're in charge of how deep you go down into this. Don't worry about it. It's more about finding some openness as we come back up. So we're going to bend through the knees and the hips. Bring our arms down here in front of the legs. And then on the inhale, straighten the legs. Reach the arms out and up. We'll sit back into that squat. Bring the arms down. Cross them, uncross. Opening, inhaling, out and up. Again, exhale, lower. Inhale. Do a few more. If it feels more compressive to bring the arms all the way up through the shoulders or the chest, just bring them out to the sides, palms up. Do a couple more. Finding more space here in the front of the body as you come up. All right, stay with the legs straight and then just swinging your arms out, letting that go. All right, coming up to the front of the mat. And we're coming into a few warrior poses, and we're gonna work on engaging some of the rotator cuff muscles here with this. So start at the front of your mat, take a medium to big step back with that left foot for warrior one position. Hips are square to the front. This back foot is turning out to about 10 o'clock-ish, front knee bent. Tailbone towards the earth and top of the head towards the sky. So if you're in a forward head, forward shoulder position and we start to move through the arms, you're gonna find some limitation of movement at the shoulder joints. So if you lengthen through the spine, you're stacking the head over shoulders, shoulders over hips, and the shoulder blades move into the right place on the back of your ribs. We're gonna reach both arms forward into the zombie position. We pull both elbows back, so that's that shoulder blade towards spine. And then I'm gonna have you rotate, this is external rotation, palms forward into that cactus position. And we'll come back out of it. So palms towards the floor and then reach forward into the zombie. Tailbone down, top of the head up. Inhale, pull back, open into the cactus. Exhale, reach it forward. Now just look here to one side. Can you get your hands in line with the shoulders or are they staying a little bit forward? We're gonna work on that later. One more here. Good. All right, straighten that front knee. You can swing the arms out here just to get that to release. We've been working that upper back. So I'm going to rebend the knee, keeping that warrior one lower body, but hinge forward from your hips. So there's a straight line from the back heel to the top of the head. Firming the belly, slight chin tuck. So that's our lengthening of the spine. We're going to do the same arm motion, but we've changed the angle of our torso. So for here, our arms are hanging straight down towards the earth. And then we pull both elbows out to the sides. Here's the external rotation. So you're going to rotate the backs of the hands towards the ceiling and then bring them back down, hands towards the floor. So we inhale, pull the elbows back and open into that external rotation. Release it down. A couple more. You can smooth out that motion. So you've got 4 rotator cuff muscles. We're working 2 of the 4 here in the external rotation. Those are probably important ones for most people. All right, we're gonna come on up, step it forward, roll the shoulders. So especially if it's hard for you to come into a small ball into the catch, you're gonna reach forward, but you might be rounding that upper back to get that longer reach. And sometimes that can make it hard for you to get good contraction of some of your rotator cuff muscles. So we're gonna do that again on the other side. Right foot back here in that warrior one. Right foot is turned out to 2 o'clock. Front knee bent, tailbone down, top of the head up. Shoulders relaxed. Arms forward into the zombie. We'll pull the elbows back, open into the cactus. Exhale, reach it forward again. Couple more. So hopefully these are starting to feel a little bit more familiar to you. Feeling those shoulder blades moving on your back ribs. Feeling that openness you get in the external rotation position. All right, straighten the front leg. Swing your arms out here. Let it go. And then that arrow, warrior one arrow, we bend the front knee. We hinge forward. So think straight line from the heel to the top of the head. Firm belly. Slight chin tuck, same movement, different angle, different relationship to the earth. Hands hang straight towards the floor. Pull the elbows back. Rotate backs of hands towards the ceiling. Lower all the way. Inhale, pull back and open. Shoulders, chest, exhale, lower. Couple more. Keep that slight chin tuck. Press into the outer edge of that back foot. It got a little lazy on that back leg. All right, lifting up, step it forward. Shake out those legs, roll the shoulders here. All right, we're gonna work a little bit on balance. This one has nothing to do with our rotator cuff. So we're gonna take a little break here in the shoulders. You can take a big break and do nothing with your arms for now if you'd like. But we are going to try to balance on one foot. Keep in mind the squishier your surface, the more challenging it is to balance. You might step off your mat for a more solid surface, over to the wall, hand on the wall, a steady piece of furniture. We're coming into tree pose. So bring one foot forward, spread those toes, place them down, spread out. Shift your weight onto it. Let's all start in this kickstand version. So there's our buttress, however you want to think about it. Heel is just above the ankle. We're focusing our gaze on a non-moving spot. And often we put all our weight on one leg, our hip will sink out to the side. Some of that's hip weakness, some of it's just a mindfulness aspect. So if you think again, tailbone down towards the earth, top of the head towards the sky, see how that hip kind of comes in line here. So you could stay toes down or bring that foot up somewhere on the inner leg. Maybe you reach and pull it up higher, but there's no reason to make it go higher. Keep thinking tailbone down, top of the head up so your tree is really tall. Hands could stay on hips or at the wall or come into prayer. Keeping that length here, especially the crown of the head up. So think about a tree, how it reaches upward towards the sun, upward towards the light. But you can keep your limbs relaxed so that you might feel a little stretch around the collarbones. You get that openness here around the collarbones. We're gonna let that go. Shake it out. Roll the shoulders, and we'll do this on the other side. So that foot forward, spread your toes, shift your weight onto it. Here's our kickstand version. Set it all up from here. Tailbone down, top of the head up, focusing your gaze on a spot straight ahead. So this visual feedback, really important for balance. So keeping that in mind in the boat too, keeping your boat balanced. Toes could stay down. You could bring them up on the calf, knee, inner thigh, wherever you want to have it. Hands might come into prayer. Keep thinking length. Breathe. And if you have to put that foot down, right, to rebalance, you come back up, it's totally fine. Right? I'd rather you have a reaction than just like timber over. All right, let this go. Shake it out, roll those shoulders. Okay, we are making our way back down to the floor. So we're coming into a seated position. If you struggle to sit on the floor and stay tall, or if your back, your hips don't like it, I'd rather you sit on a chair, couch, sit right on the front edge, kind of perched there. I'm gonna perch on the floor with a folded blanket. So I'm coming into a cross-legged position here with my hips slightly elevated. You could also be out in the straddle or one leg bent in or sitting back on your heels. So I've talked a little bit about forward shoulder and forward head position. We've done some things to open that chest and broaden through the collarbones, and that's great, that's lovely. But if the head stays sort of jutted forward, you're really kind of, there's this tug of war going on with the weight of that head being forward. So if we release some tension in these muscles here in the front of the neck, that can help us bring our head back over our shoulders and really start to get the mechanics right here in the upper back shoulder blade ball and socket. So we're gonna do this one where we bring the hand under the collar here on the chest. So my hand is just below my collarbone. And this hand is gonna anchor the muscular attachments, the skin, the fascia here on the chest. So I'm pressing in and pulling down, and I already feel a little bit of stretch over my collarbone. And then I'll have you tip the chin up and turn the head away. So notice I'm not in a big hyperextension here. If your eyes are open, you're really just looking like maybe towards the top of the wall. Remind both shoulders to relax. Now you could stay right here. Maybe you found this great stretch here on the front side of the neck towards the collarbone. Maybe you move a little bit, like turn the head slightly, or a little nod of the head. Keep breathing. Remind the shoulders to stay relaxed. We'll bring the head back up, roll the shoulders, see if it feels different on the side you just did, maybe a little more open. And we'll do this on the other side. Hand, if you can, under the collar of your shirt, so skin to skin contact works better. And below the collarbone, pushing in, pulling down. Tip the chin up and turn the head away from that hand. Play with that head position. Sometimes even mouth open, mouth closed makes a difference here. Remind the shoulders to stay relaxed. Remind yourself to keep breathing. And bring that head back into center. Roll those shoulders here a little bit and that backward. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more open here on the collarbones, front of the neck, throat area. We're coming into another seated position here, but initially, or the first part of this is going to be to stretch the buttocks, the outer hips. So if you'd rather do a figure 4 on your back, feel free to do that. I'm going to bring my legs over here to the right side. So I'm kind of sitting on the left butt cheek. My right butt cheek is just naturally off the floor here. Now, if you want a little more stretch, move that left foot a little bit further out away from you. And we're turning our torso to be square towards that left knee, or square-ish. So that inner left knee is facing up towards you. Hands here on either side of that knee, maybe a little bit forward. That spine stays long. You could walk the hands forward here, so you might start to feel some stretch on that left buttocks, or maybe it's in the top of that hamstring on the back of the thigh. Maybe you come further down for more stretch, but there's no reason to force it or make it feel intense. Head could come down and rest on your hands, or yoga block here. Now there is a version where you could straighten the back leg and square your hips towards the floor. So if that deeper stretch feels good to you, feel free to do it. But remember, we're not seeking pain or super intense stretch. It actually tends to backfire as far as finding openness, length, release of tension. Slow that breathing down. Coming back to your intention for the practice, or this thought about being open. Open through some of the muscles and the joints in your body. Open with the breath. Maybe even opening your thoughts. You could stay here longer in this variation of pigeon, or press yourself up. I'm going to stay in this leg position, but lean away from my legs for a quad stretch. And you can do a quad stretch in many different ways. So if there's another version that works for you, so I'm going to pull that right heel towards my butt, right hand finding that foot. Might be enough stretch, or slide that leg back a little bit. Could stay with that, or come down on your forearm, or some combination of leaning away or pulling that foot back. Take a few breaths here. And if you notice your chest, gaze rolling towards the floor, you're probably putting a little bit of stress on that knee. So keep that chest and gaze open here towards the side. We'll let that foot go. And we'll sweep this around to the other side. So legs off to the left here. And if you want more of that kind of buttocks, back of the hip stretch, you might slide that right foot further away. You can always do it when we're in the pose here too. So I'm turning my torso to square up to that right knee, inner right knee up, hands on either side, and hinging forward. So you could stay here spine long. Sometimes keeping the spine long and not rounding over actually gives you more stretch in that buttocks. So you could stay with that, or you could come down on your forearms here, forehead resting on the ground, or hands. This is a great place for that yoga block under the forehead. And remember the other option, if you're not feeling much stretch or openness in that right buttocks, you could square your hips towards the floor and straighten the back leg. Take a few more breaths here. Slowing the breathing down. Slower breaths communicate to the nervous system that you can relax into this position as opposed to work or effort or force. You can certainly stay longer here, or when you're ready, rising back up, staying in that kind of windswept position of the legs out to the side, but we're leaning away from the legs here, getting ready for the quad stretch. Left hand finding that foot. Could be a good place already. Maybe you slide that thigh back a little bit. Maybe you come down on that right forearm. And there's also that half step of onto the yoga block. So maybe all the way down is too much for you. Chest, gaze, stay open here towards that left side. Where's that lengthened breath? Bring it back into this part of your practice. We're gonna let that foot go here. And we're coming on to your belly. So belly down position. I'm gonna do a couple of things in the belly down position. The first one is working on some of those rotator cuff muscles, finding them, strengthening them. And then I'll be doing a variation of a locust pose. So I'm gonna use the blanket here to pad my hip bones when I go into that locust pose. Now, I'm gonna work on those rotator cuff muscles. So we're working on external rotation here. So that's sort of cactus arm position we were doing in some of the upright poses. We're gonna do one arm at a time, and we're gonna isolate these rotator cuff muscles. So we're not using as much of the upper back here. So you're gonna use the yoga block and bring it off to the side. So elbow bent, palm facing the floor, but you're gonna rest that inner elbow on the yoga block. Now I'm gonna rest my head down here on the other hand, and I'm starting in this position. The inner elbow's on the yoga block, my palm is on the floor. Now I'm not trying to lift anything but my hand and the forearm here. So I'm working to lift the hand and the forearm away from the floor, but my elbow stays on the block, and then I lower it back down. So inhale to lift the hand, the forearm, exhale to lower. Now I'm going to bring my head into neutral because I'm starting to feel a little bit of tension in my neck. So I'm just putting a hand under my forehead here, and I'm going to do a few more. So I inhale, lift the hand, the forearm, elbow down, exhale, lower. So these two of your four rotator cuff muscles are on the back of the shoulder blade. Not in between the shoulder blade and the spine, but literally on the back of the shoulder blade and attached to the back and the outside of that upper arm. You may be feeling that muscle. You may not be able to lift this arm very high. All right, let it rest. Whew. It's interesting when you isolate there how you can feel it. Now, of course, the other side, and this may be different over here, right? I'm gonna angle a little bit so maybe you can see too. So that arm is out to the side, inner elbow resting on it, palm facing down. You want to let this head rest so you're not looking at it. So nothing else lifts but that hand and the forearm, and then lower back down. Inhale, lifting, exhale, lowering. And wow, I can feel the difference here between my left and right. So my dominant side, my right side, is stronger. I'm actually able to lift up a little higher. I have a little more range of motion. And again, don't be surprised if you can't lift very high. You might not even be able to lift your hand as high as the elbow is. Some of that's tightness on the opposing muscle groups, the chest, the lats. Some of that's weakness in the rotator cuff. All right, lower on down. Whew. Take a little break here, a little rest. Head resting down. Might feel good just to wiggle the hips a little bit. Take a few more of those lengthened breaths. So those muscles we just strengthened are usually some of the weaker parts of the rotator cuff muscles, and we isolated them out, but the rotator cuff muscles typically work together, all four of them working together really to stabilize the ball and socket joint. But if two of the four of them are weak or overstretched, then the mechanics of the shoulder really don't work very well. You could continue to stay here resting or coming into a variation of locust pose. So you guessed it, we're coming into that cactus arm position here. So elbows bent, palms facing the floor. Lengthen the tailbone towards your feet. And then lift the head and chest. Lift the arms, shoulder blade squeezing. Option to raise the legs. Now, see if you can keep your elbows up. Let the hands come down to the floor. And then bring the hands back up to elbow height or higher. Exhale, hands go down. Inhale, lift. So this is the same thing we just did, right? But we don't have the support underneath. And we're working a whole lot more muscles at the same time. All right, we'll do one more just in case you were a little bit behind me. All right, bring the arms forward, lower the head. That whole back of my body was working there. Good stuff. You can bend the knees and rock the legs side to side, a little windshield wiper motion here. We are done working the rotator cuff, that upper back. We get to take a little rest here, which is good news for most of us. Lowering the feet and roll onto your back. And you might move that blanket out from underneath you. Go ahead and pull both knees in towards you here, holding shins or backs of thighs here if you'd like. It might even feel good to kind of lift the head and chest, bring your chin towards the chest and round up for a breath or two, and then lower it back down, gently rocking. And we'll keep the knees in relatively close. They might come away a little bit, but bring the arms out to the sides. We'll drop both legs over to the right, so the spine will twist here. Now I'm feeling a little tension in my side waist and my back, so I'm gonna slide a yoga block underneath my knees so I can kind of rest into that position. Gaze up or head turned away. So if you have those knees going over to the right, head turning towards your left, see if you can just pull that left shoulder blade down towards the waist, and notice how that gives you a little bit more turn of your head, and maybe even bend that left elbow a bit. Take a few breaths here. Back gets to rest. Head resting, so neck not having to work, hopefully. And pull those knees back up through center. Maybe gently hug them in, rock a little bit, circle the hips and knees. And then arms out, we'll drop the legs over to the left. Don't feel like you gotta keep, and in fact, it's probably hard to keep the legs pulled in tight. So the knees might come away from you a little bit. Maybe you'd like a prop under the legs to lessen the intensity of this position, or allow you to release and not have to work so hard. Head turning away from your legs. Maybe you pull that right shoulder blade down towards your waist so that the back of the hand makes a little more contact with the earth, and that might actually facilitate a little more head turn, but don't force it. Just if it goes, let it go. Take a few breaths and see if there's anything that you can let go of here, any place where you're still kind of holding on to tension or tightness. Face, hips, shoulders. We'll pull the knees back into center, coming onto your back. Maybe a few rocking, gentle, circling motions here. Might even feel good to come into a happy baby. Knees out a little wider than your hips, soles of the feet towards the ceiling with the knees bent. Holding backs of thighs, ankles, feet, maybe a gentle rock. So we're gonna come into chest open position, maybe a little bit of stretch through the chest, but it's also going to be a relaxation position for those muscles between the shoulder blades and the rotator cuff muscles on the backs of the shoulders. So I'm going to give you a couple of options. One is making a long roll of your blanket or towel and putting that underneath you here. So mine's long enough that I can get my tailbone, spine, my head on here. And we'll let the arms come out to the sides, palms up. So we're in that external rotation position with the palms, inner elbows up, and let the shoulder blades just wrap around that roll. You could also use a foam roller. Now the foam roller is going to be a little bit more intense stretch. for the chest and the front of the shoulders, so it might be too much. I've got this nice long one that's really, I mean, it's mostly good for this particular stretch and not as much as for the self-massage technique. So if you have the shorter one, you could still have that foam roller under the upper back and the head and maybe slide a yoga block under your hips here. The roller, I need my feet out a little wider, maybe a sort of a knock-kneed position, but then we'll do that same arm position, arms out to the sides, palms facing up. If you find your head really tipped back here in the chin up, you might need a thin layer, like a folded blanket under the back of your head so that your gaze is straight up here towards the ceiling. Now the good news is that once you're here, the work is done, right? So the force that's on your body is not by virtue of you engaging muscles. It is the positioning of the prop and gravity. So gravity here is opening that chest. Gravity is opening the shoulders, allowing the palms to face up. Gravity and the prop are pulling the shoulder blades towards the earth and wrapping the shoulder blades around this roll. So those muscles that we've been working quite a bit here in the upper back get to rest. And because we're in this palm up position, those two rotator cuff muscles we've been working also get to rest and slacken. Now you could stay right here. This might feel like enough openness for you, or you could find some variation where the arms are a little further away from your body, elbows bent, but you want elbows and backs of hands resting on the floor. This is one that I practice quite a bit. I've had to recover from surgery and injury. But you might be a little bit tight, so you might have to bring your arms a little further down, right? Or have less bend in them. And you're not looking for intense stretch or pain. In fact, I want this to be relatively mild sensation of stretch in the chest, front of the shoulders, right below the collarbones. Slow the breathing down. Not effortful. Just lengthen it out a little bit. Let the shoulders release towards the earth so you're not resisting that force of gravity here. Take a few more breaths right here. This is a pose I often get into at the end of my day, especially if I've done a lot of work on the computer or a lot of seated tasks. Or even really if I've just been up for a long time, like I've had a long day and not had a chance to rest. Just letting gravity pull me open as opposed to gravity shoving me down towards the earth. Can feel really lovely, and reverse that forward head and forward shoulder positioning, giving you that openness. So you could stay here longer. We're getting ready to come into Shavasana relaxation. Maybe you stay here a little bit longer. This is enough for me. So I'll pull my arms in and roll off the side of this. And then decide how you'd like to set yourself up for Shavasana. Maybe it's some variation of the chest open. I'm going to come into legs up the wall. So those of you know, if you know, you know. It's one of my favorites, especially at the end of the day. And I'll show you an arm position here that I often get to when I come into this legs up the wall position. So just scooting over, outer hip close to the wall, pivoting on the butt to bring the legs up. You might even slide a little blanket under the hips for a little more elevation and pelvic floor relaxation. Legs, whatever position works for you. I'll often come into this cactus arm position here, or even diamond shaped position. And if you're too tight in the chest or shoulders, or you feel your fingers tingle or go numb, might not be the right position for you. But this is a place where I get to relax those external rotators, those two rotator cuff muscles, where I get to relax the muscles between the shoulders and the spine, my spine parallel to the earth. I get to take the compressive forces of gravity out of the picture. But wherever you've chosen to be, take a moment here, settling in, getting comfortable, and then take an inhale through your nose. Open the mouth, let out a sigh. And you could do another one like that. Let the breath go. Allow your body to breathe in whatever pattern or rhythm or rate or depth that it dictates. Giving yourself the next few minutes to rest. You could certainly stay here longer, resting more before returning to your day or your evening. If you're ready to move on, pull in some deeper breaths. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. Circle the wrists, the ankles. Maybe a bigger full body stretch, arms overhead. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, let it go. We'll bend the knees here. Roll to your side. Come onto your side and just pause here a moment, taking this opportunity to appreciate your body, your breath, your health, your yoga practice. Press yourself up to a seated position. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice, your energy, your openness. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.